You are listening to Radio Maria Canada. We now present the Health Hub, hosted by Kathy Biasi.
Welcome to the Health Hub on Radio Maria Canada, exploring cutting-edge health and wellness information and therapies, helping you to take your health to the next level. I'm your host, Kathy Biasi, and I am an holistic nutritionist and a professional cancer coach. On today's show, we are talking about optimizing performance, and our guest is Dr. Mike Van Thielen. Dr. Mike has his PH.D. in holistic nutrition. He is a biohacker, mentor, health and wellness expert, best-selling author, international keynote and motivational speaker, and world record holder in swimming. He has been involved in optimal health practices, anti-aging and regenerative medicine, sports performance, nutrition and supplementation for over 3 decades. As a top swimmer in his native Belgium, he gained interest in optimizing health and athletic performance. Dr. Mike is the medical director at ClariGenZ Health, an innovative medical company with a new pill providing all the benefits of Adderall without any of the harmful side effects. He is also a treating physician for Boston Neuro pain and Psych centers, helping tens of thousands of patients with chronic pain and mental health conditions. A lot of what we talk about today is focused around athletics, but it certainly does spread out into the area of health and into career and workspace. Optimizing performance is something that has a pervasive concept in all of these areas if we want to get to the next level. So learning how to optimize our performance in these levels is very valuable. And there are some very real similarities between any area of your life that you want to optimize your performance. We talk about what the keys are to optimizing performance. How does finding our purpose help to optimize our performance? And what are some of the ways we can access the dopamine in our brain to improve our concentration, drive, and motivation? A very, very interesting topic today. We hope you can stay tuned with us. We will be back in just a few minutes to talk with Dr. Mike.
You are listening to Radio Maria Canada. We now continue with the program, The Health Hub, hosted by Kathy Biasi.
Welcome back, everybody. Today's show has been recorded, so no opportunity for calling in. Please do follow us on our social sites. That's where you will find information about Dr. Mike today, and any of the other guests we've had, and that's, pretty much your best vehicle to contact us. We are at the Health Hub RMC on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So we would love for you to join the group of us that are following the Health Hub and really taking away some key points from our wonderful guests. Dr. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Kathy.
It's a pleasure. And this is a topic that we haven't spent a lot of time on the Health Hub, athleticism, developing, the key mindset for athletes. And, I think it's just so apropos. Give us a bit of a background as to why you have become so center stage in this area of health.
I can keep a long story shorter, but I grew up in Belgium. People probably can hear my accent. Me and my brother and my mother provided for both of us, so she worked really hard. But I think I came pretty competitive at a young age. When I was in elementary school, I was the fastest runner in the class. I was on the soccer team, basketball team. But there was one thing I couldn't win, which was swimming, because one of my friends was part of the local swim team. So according to my mother, because I don't really recall, she said my solution to overcome that was join the swim team myself. And
I like that.
so I was very competitive. I ultimately swam a world record in swimming there, but so very competitive. And then when I graduated at the University of Brussels, I decided to save $400, pack my backpack, and come live the American dream. Needless to say, when I came here without a mentor or a coach, I obviously got knocked down many times. But my motto quickly became, I never lose, I win, or I learn. And so it took me a long time really to get where I am. And today I'm a mentor and a coach because I want to show people the pitfalls and, make them accountable and make sure they can reach their goals and dreams, whether that's in being a top performer in sports or being the best entrepreneur you can be or the best mom you can be. It doesn't really matter. Because my latest book is about getting into the zone on demand, because most of us assume that being in the zone or getting into the zone is just for athletes or maybe even musicians. But no, everybody can really put a power routine in place where we can turn that, turn that being in the zone on and off. But today it's even more complicated and difficult because of the social media and us being distracted by so many digital messages each and every day. That's my long journey in a short. So that's where we are. Yeah.
What is this is a very broad space that you are involved with, a broad clientele. Do you take clients on, or are you, do you take individual clients on, or is your practice sort of evolved?
You do. I do individual clients. I got several mentorship programs, and I also have a corporate impact program, is what I call it. So I also work with corporations to improve the engagement of their employees, shape the culture, increase focus, productivity, and those types of things with their teams.
What is can you pull a common thread, amongst all of these seemingly different groups of people that you work with?
Yeah, we're all individuals still, and we're obviously impacted by our environment and the exponential increase in our society, which now is really technology driven, right? And so I guess I really became consciously aware of this during the pandemic, because a colleague friend of mine asked me to help out with pre-screening people for medical marijuana. And I said, sure. I had some time because we closed our stem cell clinic. I was the CEO of a stem cell clinic. I had a little bit of extra time to figure out what I needed to do. So I said, sure, let me do that. So I talked to a few hundred people per week, and of course there are drugs and there are drugs and supplements and therapies out there for people with anxiety, depression, PTSD, panic attacks and those types of things. But when I talked to so many of them, I really found there was an underlying cause of those. And so most of these people, they didn't live with a purpose. They were going through the motions. They were getting up in the morning, having to go to their job, being bombarded with extra work by their boss, then having to rush home to try to, for example, bring the kids to soccer, deal with their significant other. And so they never got caught up, and including financially. So I only can imagine when there's uncertainty what tomorrow brings, next week brings, next month brings, or even next year brings. Obviously, you're going to be worrying and fearful, which then translates in anxiety, depression, stress, and those types of things. So I really decided to then write my latest book because my other books were always health related. And in this book, I expand myself to, we really need to find or confirm purpose. We need to have passion. Once we know our purpose, we really need to starting to regain control of our life, because in most of us, life is controlling us and we're not getting ahead of it. So it's about scripting our life, being in control of our agenda, making a plan, having those incremental steps that we take towards our dreams each and every day, having a strategy, having a team around us that supports us, knowing that we need people around us to achieve our highest potential, including people that are strong where we are weak. And so that's where I help people today, is really, making strides towards their goals and dreams, because most of us have given up on those, right? So I'm trying to reignite that fire, reignite that passion, come up with a planned strategy, put them in contact with the right people, and then just take those small incremental steps on a daily basis so we can find that fulfillment. Because I think most people, when they really dream big, they get overwhelmed, they get scary. And so we need to break those dreams down in steps that we can attain each and every day. And so as a coach mentor, I keep them accountable and make sure that we reach those goals and dreams.
Okay, so as a coach of a very high level athlete, that athlete has purpose. So that is one thing that you are not fighting with when it comes to working with athletes. Am I correct in that? Or is it,
Yes,
do you redefine?
No, that's correct. In that part of their life, they do have a purpose, right? They want to win at Olympic Games. They want to set a world record, whatever it is. And usually they know exactly when we need to do that. Olympic Games, World Championships, we have a date, we have a time, we have a location. So for the average person, that's not in place. For a top athlete, that's usually in place. And obviously, we got to identify the best team to reach those goals, right? Of course, we need to have a trainer. We need to have a trainer in the gym, because it's sport specific, right? So let's say, I was a swimmer. So of course, I need a great swim coach that knows what he's doing and has the experience working with top athletes. But then I need a trainer in the gym that knows exactly what to do for a swimmer in the gym. Then I probably need a nutritionist. I need a mental coach. I need support around me, which usually is your family or good friends, training partners that push you beyond the limits. So you probably need another top athlete next to you. And so we got to make sure that the team is complete. And then the way I can help them is what we call today biohacking, right? Which is upgrading your body, your mind, and your life. In the sense of the athlete, it's really doing whatever we can to upgrade that body. And biohacking, in my definition, means objectively reversing your biological age. And today we really have the strategies and the modalities and the technologies available for the average person to actually objectively reverse our biological age and become superhuman. And so when you look at athletes, usually they don't tap into these technologies or these tips or these natural compounds that are not on any doping list to really have a much more efficient body, better oxygen into the tissues, better VO2 max, better strength, faster recovery, faster removal of lactic acid from the tissues. And so even top athletes today are not looking really into those things that can really be a great advantage. And that's where I come in, is introduce those biohacking methodologies into their regimen and creating power routines that will really help them, not just with the body, but also with the mind. Again, most coaches would tell you that the mind plays 50 to 90% role in in somebody's peak performance, but it's more than that. It's close to 100%, because that's usually the difference between winning and losing. Mm-hmm. If you look, for example, at I'll just take something local here, the NBA. There's hundreds of NBA players, so obviously they all have talent, they all have skills, they all are strong, they all are athletic. But what makes the difference between the average NBA player and Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, right? What makes the difference between being an NBA player and an MVP? And usually it's not that they're stronger or that they have more skills. They're more determined. They're focused. They're in the zone every single game. They've figured out how to play their best each and every time. The other NBA players is what people say, oh, he or she had a good game, or oh, he or she had a day off or a bad game. And so what does it mean? It means they were distracted. They were not in the zone. Distracted by what? Well, maybe they had an argument with their significant other. Maybe something happened with the kids. Maybe there was a financial problem this week. Who knows? But they were not in the zone. And when you're not in the zone, you're just a fraction of a second too late, or you anticipate a little bit later than your opponent, or the ball slips through your hands if you're a wide receiver, or you miss a putt if you're a golfer. And when you're into the zone, you only have the end in mind, the win. And when you're not into the zone, you are distracted by your misses. For example, if you miss a putt at hole 7, usually that carries over the next few holes. If a wide receiver, if the ball slips through their hands, it usually carries over a few more plays. But when you're in the zone, it does never carry over because you only have the end in mind. So what I help athletes with is upgrading their body, but also upgrading their mind and teaching them on how they can be in the zone on demand, almost like a switch they can turn on and off, like you see a Michael Jordan and a Kobe Bryant do each and every time.
Is that a switch, though, or is that just like athletic ability, something that some of these top athletes are born with?
No, it's they kind of stumbled upon themselves, and then they unconsciously kind of fine-tuned what I call a power routine. So I do with other athletes that they don't know how to get there. We teach them how to get into the zone. And then and sometimes it's a little bit of trial and error because certain things work for certain people and not for others, including athletes. So the ultimate goal here, Kathy, is to create a power routine, which is a routine they can count on to be in the zone each and every time. It's something you can count on as an athlete, as a musician, as an entrepreneur. It's a power routine. It's something that works for you each and every time. So being in the zone on demand then becomes a power routine specific to that person and athlete. And they know that when they execute that routine, they will be in the zone, they will be winning, they will be at their best. And other people will kill their presentation in front of 1,000 people. They will crush their sales goal. They will write their best book ever. They will write their best piece of music ever. So whatever it is that you're doing, I can help develop that power routine with you that brings you in the zone on demand so you can perform at your highest potential.
Without giving away all the secrets of your new book, are there basic principles you can share with us for athletes and non-athletes to get into this performance zone?
Of course. And again, the book has been available for several months. And actually right now, if you subscribe to my email for free, you can get a free PDF also. So there's no really secrets in the book. But for your listeners, yes, I mean, it's basically a little journey that we take because, again, I need to make sure we agree on your purpose. And for many people, athletes, of course, like we established, they know their purpose already. But other people, we really need to define what their purpose in life is. And many times they're not living their purpose. So we do exercises and we have some conversations about that. So we agree what the purpose is. Then we need to get a plan and a strategy, and we got to identify the people that we need. But when it comes to that last part, and that's probably what you're asking is, what are the things to upgrade our body, to upgrade our mind, and things like that? Well, most of us, when we talk about in the zone, we're the opposite. The average attention span today is 6 seconds. So most of our listeners today, Kathy, we already lost, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the average attention span is six seconds. So we got to identify this problem. And I think it's again, because we are bombarded individually with about 14,000 digital messages per day. And our simple brain cannot organize that chaos. So we need to put systems in place. We need to put, again, power routines in place so we can manage our life. And that's one of the first things is most of us today are in a dopamine overload. And I'm sure you heard about that. We basically have 5 intelligence hormones. It's dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, acetylcholine, and serotonin. And if those 5 hormones are in balance and at optimal levels, that's when we physiologically actually are in the zone, right? The problem is that most of us today are in a dopamine overload. Dopamine is your reward hormone. It feels good when our brain squirts a little bit of dopamine. It's like getting a pat on the back. And so people kind of are seeking those little squirts of dopamine. We seek them through sugar and bad food and energy drinks and coffee, because it makes us feel good. It's a squirt of dopamine. But today it's also social media. And that's why most of us unconsciously spend more time on social media than we should. It's a little bit of an addiction, and it's actually a dopamine addiction, because if somebody comments on our post, our hearts, our Instagram, it feels good, and therefore we seek more of it. And so today most people are in that overload, which means is there's too much dopamine compared to the other intelligence hormones, which results in what? It results in brain fog. inability to focus, lack of attention, procrastination, fidgeting, again, not getting the job done. And so it's kind of a vicious cycle. So the first thing I do with people is make them aware and educate them about the dopamine overload. And then when they understand why they can't focus, why they're fidgeting, why they're procrastinating, why they can't, stay on topic or finish a project they're working on, we need to upgrade their diet, watch out for those energy drinks and sugary snacks, and start to get in control of our social media versus social media controlling us. One of the many simple things that I do a lot is obviously we need to, again, go back to basics, which is, where is your workplace? Oh, I'm just sitting on the kitchen table or in the couch in front of the TV doing my work. Well, that doesn't usually work, right? We get distracted. So let's assign a workplace where you do your work, at the office and or at home. And when you go to work, let's let other people know if they're around, not to disturb you. And let's put that phone on airplane mode, because the phone should have only one reason. It's for you to use when you need some information or you need some information from somebody else. But we're not going to allow that phone interrupt us when we're working. So we're going to put it on airplane mode. We can utilize certain techniques. There's many of them, but the most known one is probably the Pomodoro technique, which works for many people, but not for everybody. It basically means that we're going to go sit in the designated area, work on our project or do whatever work it is we need to do. And we're going to set a timer for 20, 25 minutes. When the timer goes off, we leave our workspace for 5 minutes. And then we come back and do another 20, 25 minutes, and we repeat that cycle 4 or 5 times. It's something that works very well for people, because during those 20, 25 minutes, they are 100% focused in the zone. Door is closed, no distractions, no phone, no apps going off, and those types of things. So many times it's really getting organized, getting our agenda, our calendar organized, implementing strategies to not be distracted and to really get some work done. So that's many times the first thing, because if we can't focus, we certainly can't get into the zone, right? Being in the zone means no distractions, being in a space, being in a flow state where we are 100% immersed into what we are doing. And the people around us may be there, but we don't even recognize that they're there, because we're so focused, so intensely concentrated, that we anticipate faster, that we can get much more work done in less time than anybody else who isn't focused. And so I think that's kind of one of the first steps that I do with people and athletes alike is, being cognizant of the distractions around you and being, cognizant of the effect social media has on our focus and on our productivity and those types of things. So that's kind of the first things that I make sure are in place before we really can get into a great power routine that gets us in the zone on demand.
I guess everything flows from that space, right?
Correct.
Excellent. We're going to take a quick break, everybody. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
You are listening to The Health Hub here on Radio Maria Canada, a Catholic voice wherever you are. To contact us and be a part of the show, email thh@radiomaria.ca. We now continue with the program. Here once again is your host, Kathy Biasi.
Welcome back to our show. Dr. Mike, I want to continue along this same space of talking. As with so many guests, so many questions and avenues of conversation pop into my head. But what I want to ask you is, and I've done some reading on this, are you fighting an uphill battle trying to pull brains back from these quick decisions, quick fixes, everything is about getting things done now, instant gratification. Is this the way of the world? Our our next generation, they may not physiologically have that attention span. Are you fighting against this, or do you have to adapt, or do you believe that we need to go back to that space where we can sit and be quiet?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say it's a fight, right? There has to be the willingness. There's still people that want to produce something, people that have dreams, but even people that that have been absorbed by, the way society wants us to live, the way parents want us to live, or what they want us to do in life. So when I talk to them about purpose, it's really about, recognizing that we come into this world and take our first breath. From that moment on, we are steered in a certain direction by society, right? We got to go to school, then we got to go to college, then we have to work for somebody till we're 65, and then there's supposedly the golden years, which usually don't happen. Or our parents and teachers push us in a certain direction. Like, let's say dad's a lawyer, they probably want you to go to law school. Mom's a doctor, they probably want you to go to med school. But nobody's asking you what you want or what your dreams were when you were a kid, or what ignites fire in your belly, or what ignites passion in your life. And so no matter where you are in life, I always tell people, let's stop for a second. Let's stop the rat race and let's see what you are excited about. And I do have exercises that I do with them, mental exercises that they can decide for themselves really what their passions are. And sometimes they're far away from what they're doing right now. Let's say, somebody did go to a med school because their family is into healthcare and their mom was a doctor, and maybe they're even a great doctor, maybe even a great surgeon, and they're great at what they do, but it may not be their passion. It may not be their goal in life. It may not be their superpower. And so I still do these exercises with everybody, because once you really are living your dream, once you are working and you get up in the morning and you're not thinking to yourself, I have to get up, I have to go to work, I have to do this, I have to do this. But you get up in the morning and you think, oh my God, I can't wait. I get to get up, I get to do this, I get to do that, because you're passionate about what you're doing, because there's fulfillment every day, and you're knowing what your dreams are, and you're taking a little step closer each and every day. Then your whole outlook on life changes. Remember, I told you about, I was talking to all these people on the phone, pre-qualifying them for medical marijuana. And there were so many people with anxiety, depression, PTSD, and you name it. And again, it's they don't have a purpose in life. And I believe once we find purpose, many of those mental conditions and illnesses, they go away, because we take the cause away. When people have no purpose and there's fear and uncertainty what life's bringing, obviously we get those mental conditions. But once we define their purpose and their passion, then again, it's almost like an athlete. Nothing will stop them. Hurdles suddenly are no longer obstacles. They become opportunities. They become steps closer to their goals and dreams, and their whole outlook suddenly changes. And then it's much easier to work with them on a plan, on a strategy, on a team. They're much easier excited about changing their diet, upgrading their diet, working on their mindset, eliminating false core beliefs, visualization, manifestation. All those types of things suddenly are received as something positive, as something that can accelerate them reaching their dreams, as something that contributes to their life, versus somebody that doesn't have that purpose. It's yet another task for them to do. It's yet another change they don't like. So it always boils down to that purpose. And that's why I start with that purpose, because then from there on, everything else becomes easy. So when you say the next generation, I think that if we can help them find purpose and show them also to get out of this comfort zone, because we are, in a sense, modern day slaves of this, this scripted life, a life that's scripted for us, because it does have a lot of conveniences. And so that's what I call it sometimes modern day slaves. We don't feel like we're slaves, but we're working from other people, where we are fulfilling other people's dreams if they're our bosses, etc. And so in return, we get some conveniences, right? But we really need to get out of that comfort zone. And that's what I work on with people too, is really understanding what the comfort zone is, and understanding that once we step out of there, that's when we can discover ourselves, our own identity. That's when we can grow. That's when we can go from ordinary to extraordinary. That's when you will identify your purpose. Within the comfort zone, we are limited in really exploring ourselves, discovering ourselves. So it's really about finding purpose, educating them how to get out of their comfort zone so they can live their own life, script their own life, and realize their goals and their dreams. No matter who you are, you don't have to be an athlete to do that. And then everything gets excitement, right? Everything gets excited, and it's much easier to work with them. But I think you're right. If we can't find that fire or find that passion or find their purpose, then it's just going to be a fight and a struggle. People need to be on board with your message. They need to understand that there's much more to life for them. And the world today needs all of our superpowers. So my purpose is to really help people unleash their own superpowers.
Well, let's face it, when push comes to shove, a lot of people spend their day just trying to make ends meet and get through the other end of the day and provide. So to take time for themselves to try and even imagine a purpose that you can get excited about doesn't seem a realistic thing. And it comes back in my mind to mental health. This is a very key thing that you are working on, and supporting brain health. I believe that we're anatomically brain down. And it starts there. I firmly believe that all health, all success, and all lack of success, shouldn't say all lack of success, but when you're not in a clear space, when you're not in a positive mental space, this impacts all areas of life, just like when you're in a good space. Now, when you're taking care of the health of the brain, we have experiences, we have food. We also have a very newish sort of area of health in the supplementation space, the nootropics. Right. Do you lean heavily on these?
I don't lean heavily on these. I just use them to facilitate certain stages or actually get that little extra edge, right? Of course, when I was talking to all these people, many of them were on drugs, Ritalin, Wellbutrin, Adderall, and of course, I've never been on these, but a lot of people, it helps them. But there's so many adverse reactions, especially long-term, especially with Adderall, talking about increased heart rate, increased risk for heart disease, seizures, psychosis. I mean, these are not little things. And so, me being a PhD in holistic nutrition and knowing a lot about supplements, I always obviously lean to the natural alternative, and we call those nootropics, which are basically natural smart drugs. And so these are ingredients, are compounds that help with focus, that help with memory, that help with the brain, right? And so there's many out there, and some of them are good and other ones are better. But the first thing I look at is obviously, are they 100% safe? And do they not cause any of the jittery effects and immediate side effects, such as fatigue and lethargy or excess energy, or again, just like caffeine and nicotine causing those jittery effects? So a few years ago, I came across a nootropic called Focus Plus, and Focus Plus has no side effects, has no jittery effects. And for some people, it really makes a difference. I know many of my own clients that got off drugs like Adderall and replaced it with Focus Plus. And for some people, to be honest, it really didn't make a change either. So it's something that each individual just has to try. And your listeners actually could go to the following website, trysmartpill.com to get a free sample and see if it works for you. But it has only 4 ingredients. The main ingredient is called the biocitroid, which is a terpene from a specific type of blood orange or citrus fruit, if you will, from the southeast region of Asia. And biocitroid at 30 milligrams or higher is able to basically pass or cross the blood-brain barrier. So it actually gets into the brain quickly in 30-40 minutes. Most supplements take several weeks to build up into your system for you to feel an effect or not feel an effect. So it works pretty quickly, this Focus Plus, 30-40 minutes. And then we added 3 other ingredients to it. We added L-tyrosine, which is an amino acid which helps with memory and focus. We also added phenylalanine, which is a neuro agent, which again helps with photographic memory, focus, and those types of things. And then the last one is probably the most important one, in my opinion, is phosphatidylate. Phosphatidylate is found in our entire body. It's a healthy fat, and it's also found in the brain. But what it does, it stimulates NGF, which is nerve growth factor. So it helps with neurotransmission. It helps with the formation of new brain cells. So you activate more brain cells and you form more brain cells with this ingredient. So what we have seen that the combination of these 4 ingredients seems to be a synergistic conformation, which balances those 5 intelligence hormones we talked about and also optimizes those. So it does help people to focus and kind of stay into the zone for, I would say, up to about 6 hours. So it's one of those things that doesn't have any side effects that may help people get into the zone. So with some clients that I start working with on their strategies, on their workspace, on their dopamine overload, on putting off their phone and creating an environment where they can focus and produce, I may use this to facilitate getting them into the zone and focused, and then slowly, if possibly, wean them off it or not use it every day. But even myself or other people, we can use it on important days when we have to deliver a presentation at work, when we have to, do a competition in sports, or when we have to have an important day ahead of us. Then it could be that little extra that just gets you into that zone. But I wouldn't be the first one to encourage dependency on even these all-natural substances. But they could make a big difference. They could get people off drugs and on something much more natural that doesn't have any of the side effects.
So an add-on to all the other steps that we have been talking about, really?
Yes, correctly.
I would venture to guess that a lot of people have never been able to, maybe not our generation, but the generation coming up behind us, the ability to sit and focus. Even at school, they've got computers, they've got phones, they've got many different distractions. It would be a very new feeling to be able to sit and to focus and to see what is accomplished in those times. Now, I know when we talked off air that you talked about the impact that COVID had on the direction of your career and the stress that you saw coming from that. Is that still paramount to what you're doing right now?
Yes. I mean, not the COVID itself. It's during COVID that I realized that, that there were so many mental conditions going on. It starts with worry and fear, anxiety, depression, PTSD, and ADHD, obviously, no focus. And so I helped many people with it. And then I really decided, book number 8 here, to not just talk about health, because I have many books: stem cells, optimizing the immune system, fibromyalgia. I got all these types of books, but I felt there that I needed to expand this because we always look for, Band-Aids or supplements or something to fix a symptom. But I believe, talking to those hundreds of people, that fixing worry and fear and anxiety and depression and stress is not done with a drug or a supplement or even a therapist. It's done with taking control or regaining control of your life and living with purpose and scripting your own life, because control creates clarity, and clarity omits all stress. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so true, so poignant. And we see so much now in the mental health space coming out as a result of COVID, and we have an epidemic here of mental health issues. Yes. And I think when we want to talk about, it's easy to talk about finding purpose. It's easy to talk about this, that, or the other, but being able to focus, to me, is where it starts. Because if you can't focus, if you're not clear in your thought process, it can land you in trouble.
Yeah, of course. And you can't be productive. And if you feel you're not contributing to a family, a society, a community, we're still social beings. We want to have purpose. We want to, we want to contribute somehow. And if you can't even manage yourself, right, because you're controlled by social media, or like you said, you're overwhelmed, you can't focus, you can't get even your homework done, whatever it may be, you're gonna feel inferior. It's also has to do with low self-esteem and low confidence, and it's a vicious cycle, and just we need to break that cycle. But I believe we don't have to break it with drugs or supplements. We have to break it with helping these people find their purpose and regaining control of their calendar, their agenda, and their life, and helping them, as you said, with focus and productivity.
Going through COVID, a lot of us, all we had was our screens and our social media, and that's how we touched with the world. And if the message that we were receiving wasn't positive for us or wasn't striking us right, it can land in a bad space. And that's where the seeds of cultivating poor thought processes can happen. This has been a wonderful conversation. I think, we started off talking with the athlete, but it comes down to key concepts that you continually bring forward. If people wanted to find out more about you, maybe to connect with you, where your books are, where would they reach you?
Yeah, the best place is my website. It's called biohackingunlimited.com. My books are there. My mentorship programs are there. My keynote speaking, if somebody needs a speaker, resume is there. Again, you can subscribe to my free email once a week. Usually I send some valuable information out. If you sign up now or currently, we have a promotion that you will get a free PDF of the new book. So yeah, everything is on the website, biohackingunlimited.com.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mike, for being on the show with us. Real pleasure speaking with you.
You're welcome, and thank you too, because yes, we have a message, but it's people like yourself, Kathy, that take their time and efforts to get that message to your listeners. And so this is a team effort, so I appreciate your time also.
Thank you very much. Everybody, we will talk to you next week on The Health Hub.
You have been listening to The Health Hub, hosted by Kathy Biasi, here on Radio Maria Canada.